Meek is knowing that you got the juice to do what's necessary, but only unleashing as required.
Right. Control strength, right? When you have that control, you have the strength, you have the power, you have the wisdom, the discernment, and you can release that as needed to advance and to do the things God's called you to do. I don't know what is more manly than that. I can't, for me, I can't come up with anything. To me, that is the manliest thing from masculinity that we can have is control strength to lead our family, to lead our community, to lead our church, to lead our businesses, and to do it well, maintain, to step up where we need to step up. And again, have that presence, but have it under control.
Welcome to the In Pursuit of podcast, brought to you by CBHN, the Christian Business Harvest Network. These episodes highlight and celebrate those who are passionately pursuing their God-given purposes, leaning into our faith to rise and challenge the boundaries of possibilities.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's so many opportunities for us to be led or to lead. Wait, are we supposed to be the engine out front, the engine in the back, the caboose? Where do we fit in the grand scheme of things when we're thinking train moving in the direction that God has called us to be? Wait, are we the passenger car? That's why I'm really excited to have my friend Chris Granger on with us today. You're going to hear about the lion within. But what I'm hoping happens, Chris, today is that we're able to hear the lion roar within and give it its teeth back, give it its lungs back to be able to do and claim the land that God has called us to possess. Chris, thanks for joining us today. It's a privilege to have you on.
Oh, Shiraz, it's an honor to be here, sir. Thank you. We're looking forward to the conversation with you.
Well, when the first thing that we connected on was the logo, the lion within logo.
Yeah.
That's epic. Folks, you're seeing it on his screen right now. Now, if you're listening in on Spotify, we'll tell you about his website and you can certainly go check it out. But where'd you come up with the idea of that claw? Let's begin right there because, I think it's epic. You know why? Because it kind of looks like everybody knows I'm from the Toronto area and I'm a basketball fan. Kind of
Right.
looks like the Raptors logo with the claw. Where'd you come up with that idea? It looks amazing.
Yeah, it was just me and my buddy Adam. We were just talking about that W. We wanted that W to stand out, and we wanted to come out as like it was coming at you, and just to be kind of grab guys' attention and get their eye. And man, it just came together. I thought it came together beautifully.
Well, it absolutely did because that's one of the first things that caught my attention. Now, this line again, my apologies, folks, if you're listening in on Spotify or Apple, whatever, wherever you're getting your audio podcast. But for our audience is able to see this today by video. That lion, man, it is screaming at me, but its mouth isn't showing its teeth.
Right.
There's this silent strength about it. It's like, I'm here. What's up?
Right.
Describe that process of picking that lion for to
Yeah.
represent your imagery.
That took a long time. I spent a lot of time looking at lions, and when I came across this one, I was like, yeah, because it's something about just the presence. And that's what I want the guys to think about when they come to the line within. Sometimes it's not what we say, it's just our presence, just being there and having that line within. And just there's something about that with when I look at that guy and I look at him every day. And it's like, yeah, it's controlled, but if he needs to handle things, he's gonna handle things, right? So it's just trying to make that connection for guys that we all have that within, and it doesn't have to be raging all the time. I think that controlled masculinity and type of leadership is what we need more of, and that's pure strength right there.
Yeah, I love that. Does it take more strength to harness, control, discipline the power within? Or is it just roar? Let me just roar on everything. Let me pee on everybody's territory and claim it for
Right.
myself and kind of take over and destroy everybody else. That's not the type of strength that you're talking about when you guys launched the Lion Within. But before we get to the Lion Within,
Mhm.
Chris, uh, let's talk about you a little bit, just a little
Cool.
bit. What was it in your life, if you go back that many years ago, where you're like, I gotta do something? sometimes it's an external force or external factors that say, hey, I got to step and do something. But most times it's something that's happening within us. What was it within you that was stirring that said, hey, something ain't right. I just gotta fine tune things a little bit for your own
Yeah.
life.
Or there was several areas. One was just my personal health. My oldest daughter, she's 13. When she was born, I was 330 pounds. And so there was some health issues going on there, right? That just like, you know, I did things my way. And then, I went through a divorce. My wife left and she left me with the girls. So I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. So I was trying to figure out, what in the world doing marriage, I thought we were doing it right. And apparently she didn't, and she left us. And so my girls, they've been with me ever since. It's never we never missed a step. And then I've since remarried, and I've lost a child. I've held my lifeless baby in my arms, and all through all those moments, man, I just keep I had choices, and I realized that so much of that was me doing things my way. However, God has a better plan. His way is so much better. And since I've started really leaning into him and just letting him guide and direct me, it's taken so much pressure off. I
Okay,
can
so
be a good, yeah,
let's rewind here.
yeah,
You just dropped a bunch on us.
oh yeah,
You know, you we've had that conversation before about the child that, just
mhm,
God was like, hey, I miss him more.
right,
I'm bringing this baby back. Let's start with the weight. 330, dude, how tall are you?
6'1",
You had
yeah,
330 pounds on that frame.
yeah, oh
I
yeah,
mean, I'm looking at you right now, and I can only see you from chest up, and you can't be more than 195, 205 right now.
that's exactly where I sit. I mean, this past Sunday, I actually completed a masogi in my life, a bucket item list. I ran a complete marathon Sunday, and had the family at the finish line waiting for me. So it's been a long journey from a health standpoint. A challenge I do with a lot of our guys now is like, look, when you're called to do the things that God's called you to do, sometimes He's going to call you to do hard things. And are you going to be ready? If you had to run a mile for the Lord, I don't know if you would ever have to, but if you were called to do that, could you do it? And there's a lot of Christian men that just quite frankly could say no to that. So I try to take that, okay, that's the area of health that we got to prioritize that, because these things are temples. They are fragile, but man, I got to do a better job of taking care of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're in conversation with Granger, founder of The Lion Within. We're going to hear a little bit more about The Lion Within. Um, let's go back a little bit further then in that same conversation that you were sharing earlier about dropping from 330 to roughly where you are right now, which is running marathons at about 200. You mentioned um, a marriage that
Mhm.
dissolved.
Mhm.
It's just like this is just not happening anymore. There's a lot of guilt and shame and personal disappointment that comes from that. You feel like a failure. You feel like, hey,
Mhm.
you screwed this up so bad. What's wrong with you? Are you that broken that you can't be loved, that somebody has rejected you? There's so many layers that exist and live within that separation.
Mhm.
And the whole time you're trying to look at your two young ladies and say, hey, we still got to keep on going. What was that like, knowing that you didn't have the health or the endurance or the capacity to keep going, but you had no choice other than to get up and keep going? What were those days like?
Yeah, I mean, for that, and I had lost a lot of weight by then. So,
Okay,
a lot of the weight had come because that's when I started. When my oldest was born, I started the journey, and it took a
okay,
couple of years. But at that moment, man, it was I went straight into kind of lion mode, just protect it. All I could think about at the time, Shiraz, was taking care of those little girls, because my wife actually, she left me for someone else. So I was automatic in my mind, there was no resolving that. There was no going back to try to fix that part, because she had already made that decision for me. I immediately went into, okay, protect, provide, preside over these two little girls who are looking at me with their little eyes at 3 years old and 5 year old, like, what do we do now? Like my 5 year old said that. What do we do now, Dad? I'm like, we move forward and we lean on God. And that's what we did. So, I mean, that was just, so that a divorce can you have a lot of options, alcohol, drugs, all sorts of things you can do to kind of hide that pain. For me, I just leaned into the word, and I just leaned into my church, and I found that was an opportunity of growth versus an opportunity of, tearing me down.
When you describe these concepts of protect, preside, and provide, and then I can't help separate that from the imagery that hangs behind you with that line.
Mm-hmm.
And are these some of the concepts that you bring to bear when you engage in your audience and the people that you are able to mentor, shape, and coach and usher into their purposes? Protect, preside, and provide. You mentioned these three other governing principles for the lion within. It's health, wealth, and self.
Mm-hmm.
We've touched on the health a little bit, a lot. We talked about self a little bit. When we come back from this short break, this concept of prosperity sometimes gets a bad rap. What does God really want from us when it comes to, growing our bank accounts? Wait, what is it? What is it? Is it a number? How do you measure wealth? You okay with me come back from the short break? We can just lean into that a little bit. Concepts of wealth.
Love it.
We'll be right back.
My name is Siddique.
Hey, it's Tracy Mighty.
Hi, my name is Albert Brandstetter. I am an investment advisor with National Bank Financial. I've been an advisor for over 35 years.
And the CBHN community has allowed me to connect with like-minded professionals that have helped reshape my career goals with the added benefit of strengthening my faith journey.
And CBHN has helped me uncover and rediscover the passion for entrepreneurship.
And I have to tell you, what I have learned and gleaned from the others who are part of CBHN has brought me to new heights, not just in my career, but personal life as well.
Come to CBHN every Thursday at 7 p.m. and you will see the amazing promises of God that He has for your life come to pass.
I think you should take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, Well Done, A Passionate Pursuit of Purpose is now available. This book was written so you don't have to leave your eternity to chance. It's for someone who is a little restless and simply looking for their next move, but doesn't know where to begin. If you feel like there is still more in your core to explore, and you want to experience the fullness of what was deposited within your DNA, then Well Done, A Passionate Pursuit of Purpose could be the very tool you need to send you in the direction of your destiny. Available now on Amazon and welldonebook.info. That's welldonebook.info.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lion Within podcast. Of course, we're here with Chris Granger. We've already heard about trauma, drama that can absolutely stain our soul, right? And keep us in that plane where not only does it stain, but it drains us of our energy, passion, and movement to keep pressing into the places that God has called us into. But in spite of that, it doesn't matter how much you're struggling, there's still this need, as you mentioned, Chris, when you have kids and other responsibilities, to still protect, to still preside, and still provide. Let's lean into provide a little bit. Also, some of the principles of the Lion Within are health, self, and wealth, right? So when you're talking about providing and provision and wealth, why is that, do you feel, an important element to what you do with Lion Within and the folks that you're able to speak life and life abundantly into?
I think this is an area that most Christians completely screw up. They think they have the mindset of scarcity. Churches, they preach that scarcity mindset, or they preach the prosperity mindset, right? And it's just God's a genie in a bottle. I just need to just rub it just right, and he should just bless me, right? And I'm like, no, guys, providing is more about stewardship. and taking care of our family and being the steward of what God has given us. And that stewardship, the blessings look different for everyone, right? I mean, we know that the evil one comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but God has come to give life so we can have it and have it abundantly. And that abundance looks different for me. It looks different for you, and I think there's too many times from the Christian standpoint, we think, well, that's just for, just for people in ministry. I'm like, no, we need successful businessmen, business women out there doing God's work inside the secular, quote unquote, secular workforce, and doing that because that is the greatest mission field we have. And then we need to take those funds and steward them well. So it's really all about stewardship is what I always come back to. And I try to talk about that and teach that, encourage that for others.
Yeah, I love that. At CBHN, the Christian Business Harvest Network, we have this drive, this passion, this inertia to spawn other people as well. And that I don't have a problem. Go make as much money as you can. Go get it. Governed by two principles. What are you willing to do to get it? What will be your moral code in which you go and get the biggest blessing that God can provide for you? And secondly, what are you going to do with it when you do get those dollars and as the increase comes in? So what you're saying is, hey, fundamentally, yeah, as abundance begins to surround you, you're saying provide well for your family, for your church, for the immediacy of who you are.
He hasn't called everyone to be an entrepreneur. Maybe he has called you to do that, but he has called us all to be good stewards of what he provides. For me, that may be investing in things for the line within us or to other ministries that I feel like are doing God's work. But at the end of the day, recognizing there's not a single dollar bill that I have that's mine. They're all his. This 10%, like, no, this he has it all. Like that literally is everything. So once shifting that mindset and understanding is, you know what, I'm going to be diligent with what he's giving me right now. How are you going to show him that you're going to be a good steward of that? Because too often we flip it upside down.
Hold on. You just said, how are we going to show him? Are you trying to say that there's something that we need to prove to God or reflect back to him as our covenant? Like, can you expand on that? What you mean by show him? Who is it that we're showing? And if you're saying it's God, why is it important? Why would you frame it like that? Show God something. Doesn't he love us no matter what?
He does love us no matter what. But what I'm saying is we have to demonstrate our love for him by being those good stewards. So maybe to show him was probably not the right, vernacular to use directly. But if we want to actually walk out and be holy and be more and more like him, a man after God's own heart, and the stewardship of what he's provided, that's what we need to be striving and driving for, right? And not necessarily worried about the dollars and bills and trying to have that number that we have in our mind. Let's just do all we can to honor and glorify him with every dollar and cent that we have. And if we make that mindset shift, man, it frees up a lot of that thinking for us.
Chris, both my girls are now in university, and I got to tell you, I'm thankful that my fridge is clear. It is like
you are.
It is clean. It is clear. There's no calendar. There's no nothing. I can actually see the stainless steel now. And when they would come home, and you went through this, and parents, as you're listening in, you probably went through this as well, where they come home and daddy, mommy, look what I drew. And then, oh, proud of you. Display it in the most prominent place in the whole house, the fridge. It's the most frequent, it's either that or the TV, right? You can't cover up the TV,
right.
So you cover up the fridge. I'm kind of with you when you say show. It's like if we have that childlike nature within us, it's like, daddy, look what I did today.
Right.
And so I'm kind of with you when you say show. I think it's okay to say, daddy, not in a boastful way, in an arrogant way. Well, look what I did, dad.
Right.
It's daddy. I feel like I always have this image of, even if it's not good enough, I am still good enough. So he's going to love me regardless of how good the output of my artwork is. As I always think in my mind, I'm creating a Picasso, but it's just stick figures.
Right.
And so when people aren't, health, wealth, and self, that internal nature is where I'm kind of shifting this conversation to. I don't feel like I'm ever going to be good enough, Chris. I don't feel like I am good enough.
Hmm.
How do you have those conversations with men to just be able to lift them up a little bit when their self-worth is like, wait, not them. All of us at different points, if we're being honest, have
Yep.
these, sometimes might be day to day. Like, can you talk to us
Yep.
about what Line Within does for moments like that when men are struggling through challenges like we all do?
Hear it every day. And I take them all. I always start with Romans 8:1. There's no condemnation for those in Christ Jesus. And I just
Right.
remind them that the evil one, they're whispering lies. And anytime that you hear thoughts like that, we have to recognize that's not from the Holy Spirit. That is from the evil one, right? When we're not good enough, we're too fat, or too slow, we're not smart enough, we don't have enough money, I'm not a good father, I'm not a good husband. All the things that, we feel like our past is defining us. No, the only thing that gets to define us is our relationship with Christ. That's it. I mean, He is it. So I really try to help guys recognize that, you know what? We need to recognize the lies as they are. They're lies, but we got to stop them. We got to take intentional action. Sometimes you can't do that alone. You got to have Christian men. You have to have brothers in Christ or sisters in Christ out there that you can go to. Hey, I'm having a really crappy day. And here's what I'm thinking, and be able to have those types of relationships. The people with refrigerator rights is what I call it, Shiraz, where they can come into your house and they don't have to ask you anything. They can start eating your food and like, hey, you're low on milk, bro. We need those types of relationships. We don't have those. There's so that we've shifted so much as a society where it's all about likes and followers and things like that versus true relationships and community and impact. And man, there's a big opportunity there. And I think that's why so many guys have these thoughts, like you're saying. I mean, I have them too, the imposter syndrome and all these different types of thoughts of,
Sure.
I'm not,
Yeah.
why does anybody want to listen to me? And man, we have to
Yeah.
recognize that is not from God.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're in conversation with Chris Granger, founder of The Line Within, an organization that, as you're hearing, is built purposefully to let your inner lion roar, to let it come out as necessary, but train it and develop it and get the teeth necessary to tear into the meat of life, right? And don't let it intimidate you. But as that image behind shows, it's with love, it's with discernment, and it's with discipline. A lot of guys, Chris, naturally with the amount of testosterone that we'll have, there's this a measure of rage. There's this measure of anger, lack of patience, and to or can be generalized characteristics of men. And the amount of regret that you and I have had conversations with men with over the years is like, man, I screwed up. Why? Because I overstepped, I overreacted, I overresponded. I couldn't pull back. I went to my breaking point. I went to that point of no return. What are you saying to somebody who's like, hey, I'm struggling through this. I just don't know how to pull back when I need to pull back.
Well, I think a lot of it comes back to the fruit of the spirit, right? And one of the last ones is self-control. And I try to remind guys, look, God's designed us with these emotions for a reason. Emotions are good. I mean, emotions are good to have this. They're just terrible decision makers. So we need to make sure we're not making decision making with our emotions. But go back to what Jesus was talking about meekness. And so many times we think about, when we hear the word meek, we think weak. And that's completely wrong, particularly for guys. Because think about, we live here on a little small farm. We have some horses out here. And I'm going to tell you what, a horse, that thing will go wherever it wants to go. I mean, it's power. There's tons of strength and muscle in that horse. But when you put that bit in that horse's mouth, my little, 11-year-old, my little 2-year-old can literally walk that horse around. Now that horse hasn't lost any of its power, right? That horse is still powerful. It's a still majestic beast. I love these animals, but they're under control. And that's what we are as men. We need to have that power. Go to the gym, do the things you need to do to have that strength, have that mental fortitude, but have it harnessed and under control. And that is the difference. So the meekness, I really try to take guys to that.
So what you're saying is meek is not weak. I love
Amen.
it. And so what you're saying is meek is knowing that you got the juice to do what's necessary, but only unleashing as required.
Right. Controlled strength, right? When you have that control, you have the strength, you have the power, you have the wisdom, the discernment, and you can release that as needed to advance and to do things God's called you to do. I don't know what is more manly than that. I can't, for me, I can't come up with anything. To me, that is the manliest thing for masculinity that we can have, is control strength to lead our family, to lead our community, to lead our church, to lead our businesses, and to do it well, maintain, to step up when we need to step up. And again, have that presence, but have it under control.
And that's what you refer to as lion mode. And I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. In closing, what would be one thing that you would want to, a couple things you would want our audience to know today?
Yeah, I mean, just remember, you cannot outsource this, guys. You've been called to lead. You can't outsource it. You need to step up. You need to own it. You don't have to do it by yourself, but you do have to do it, right? So don't try to outsource something that God has given you. Steward that well. Steward the leadership within you well. If you need help with that, we're here to support.
Chris, man, bless you, and thank you for investing in the lives of our audience in an absolutely worthwhile way.
This is an honor. Thank you so much, Shiraz.
Thanks for joining us on the In Pursuit Of podcast. Definitely follow us on our socials and consider this your personal invitation to join our Thursday night CBHN Zoom calls at 7 p.m. EST as we challenge each other to pursue the fullness of what God has for our lives. And remember, Matthew 7:7 says, "Seek and you'll find." We pray you too will walk in the fullness of your purposes.